It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker tonight, Barbara Coll. Barbara's background is in digital marketing. She was a pioneer in internet and search engine marketing, having run her own company, webmama.com, for 20 years. She is now retired and has been a wonderful and energetic volunteer with us here at SFBBO. Being a data lover, she is a self-proclaimed eBird fanatic and has given presentations for us to the public and to students about using eBird, and we'll hear a little bit about eBird today. She has also picked up photography, and she actually won a merit award from our 2019 fall click-off competition, and we'll be seeing lots of her photos throughout the talk today. And often in tandem with that, she has helped a lot with our fundraising efforts, such as helping organize the Bird Photo Big Day, which is a fundraiser where Bay Area photographers collectively capture photos of as many species as possible in one day. So this year, that'll be on April 10th. So be sure to look out for that on our website and social media. We'll be updating those very soon. So Barb, thank you so much for all you do and for joining us tonight. I will hand it over to you. So let's see if we can get you connected.
Hi, everybody. I know I'm competing with President Biden, so thank you all for being here. And first, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. So you're not seeing me. I believe that you're seeing a slide of the cedar waxwings that I took yesterday in my neighbor's holly tree. I thought I'd put them up since it was so current. All right, Serena, let's go to the next slide. You're going to hear myself and Serena and my husband, John, who is playing camera person, communicate so that we know that you're seeing exactly the right thing at all times. So a few things. One, I'd like to reiterate what Serena said and thank people that contributed to the Birdie Hour just on the $5 suggested donation. We really appreciate it. Thank you to my husband for being camera person, and thank you to SFBVO for hosting. A couple of disclaimers. I'm not an ornithologist. I am an avid, enthusiastic, passionate birder who's just lucky to have a lovely garden and a lovely gardener, my husband. I want to mention that while SFBVO is recording this as well, the presentation and a long list of resources will be available on my website, and I will put that URL into the chat. It's also going to be available when Serena sends out the follow-up. So, Serena, the agenda, please, should be on the next click. So we're going to specifically talk about where I live. I think that's really important. You're going to see my unfair advantage in a minute. And then we'll walk around outside for a while the sun is still here. And then we will talk about feeders, water. I will talk about the Pine Siskin Salmonella situation in the area and the one that's affecting the whole of the West Coast. Trees and plants, and then eBird and yard tracking. Bunch of top tips and questions. Will probably go past 6 o'clock, not with the presentation, but I'll stick around till to do Q&A till 6:30. Happy to answer any questions. So this is the broad area of where I live. We're in the Willows in Menlo Park. One more click, and you can see that we actually have a house that's on the San Francisquito, lived here so long I still don't say it fluidly, creek. And we'll show you how close we actually are when we head to the front yard. Now I'm going to, Serena, if you could stop sharing your screen. I'm going to start the video. So you can see the very back of my backyard, and you should be able to see me. So starting here, I'm going to show you plants. I'm going to show you how the trees and the plants interact. I'll show you where the birds hide and where they hang out. And then afterwards, we'll talk a little bit more specifically. So welcome to the backyard. Everything is pink. We don't know why it's all pink, but everything is flowering pink right now. So John, can you follow me? There we are. So a couple of the trees past the Zen garden, that's a peach tree in the back. But I think the most important thing to show is my neighbor also feeds birds. So we have this runway from back there all the way through the backyard to the front yard. And that's a really key element. The big trees here are a bay laurel. There's a very large coastal oak, live oak up here. And then there's the weed, the blackwood or black acacia, so which has crows nesting in it right now. So as we wander over here, we've got the apricot, and then oleanders in here. Very important in this area is the towhees and the sparrows love underneath. It's perfect, John. Love underneath these areas. They're always digging up the dirt there. Towhees are. And then I think I'm so glad it's a sunny day, because then you can see, I'll tip up even further there, John, and move over this way a bit, is the magnolia is in full bloom, as you can see, and I'm glad the rain didn't knock down all the petals. The chickadees mostly spend their time, they're the birds in here, or the house finches, which you can imagine the male house finches look stupendous in this tree for a photographer. It's really a delight. This is, John, you want to come down? This is the first water element I want to talk about. We have 4 water elements on the property, and this is the classic cement old style bird bath that the birds don't tend to drink out of. They tend to just literally take a bath. Here's the important part of this, if you want to tip up a bit, John, is the bare branches on the Vulcan magnolia and on the pittosporin. We've left this poor pittosporin in there for years and years and years, because the birds truly love hiding in the branches there. Great. A couple of new additions. I saw an Anna's hummingbird on this blueberry just an hour ago. It's a beautiful, beautiful magenta. And then, so this is the first, if you just back up a bit, John, there we go. If you could show the whole, there we are. So this is the first sort of seedier area. This is my office. So I set this up so I could see it from outside. This fountain is incredibly difficult to clean. I'd like to say right now that I put these feeders up today. I've had them down for 7 weeks, and I put them up just for demonstration purposes. I'll be taking them back down as soon as this is over, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And I'm looking forward to your questions on that. So this is just a regular, very small, I don't know if you can see that, finch seed. And with these amazing seed catchers, which I have just purchased and I love, because then the seed doesn't get on the ground and mold and turn our grass into crabgrass. So, John, you want to follow me? We'll look at the third water element. This is a really deep dish. Okay, you can stop right there. Perfect. This is a really deep dish. It actually has a fountain, a water mover inside of it. The lesser goldfinch, the golden crown sparrows love this. Even though it's really super deep, you can't see as it's 5-6 inches deep. They perch on the edge, or they perch on the wire that the fountain maker comes on. And this is just one of their favorite places. And you can imagine they hide all in the jasmine up here against the wall. Okay, this right here is the next thing. And I think, having had to take all of my seeds down, I did leave the suet up. This is the first year we've had the downy woodpecker and the nuttall woodpecker actually show up in the backyard. This is a Thundercloud Plum. Thanks, John. And birds love this. They just love this. They just fill this tree, so much so that we didn't get many flowers this year because the birds eat all the buds. So it's really funny. The flowers are just on the very, very tips. Everybody else's plum trees are like solid pink. That's okay. It's worth it. So these suet feeders, I am a huge fan. Huge fan. All right, John, why don't you go first? We may lose you for a second as we walk out the side of the house here, so bear with us. This is the Wisteria plant. Sparrows, towhees, squirrels love to run around here and hide all through here. And I'm sorry, there isn't one here right now, but I'm not sure we're going to see any birds because we're scaring them off by talking. So what you can see from here, John's standing on the porch, and directly across where that car went, that is actually the creek. So we are spoiled rotten to have, there are a lot of cars. Of course, there's a lot less cars than there used to be. So this is my largest feeder. And this is all sunflower chips, which I love. So, and the resources in my resource list on my website, you can buy this kind of thing, starting with the two bird, the one in San Carlos and the one in Los Gatos, the small businesses that are wonderful to support right now. And then the two suet feeders right here that have no melt. I've tried to do experiments to see which suet they like better, but it doesn't seem to make much difference. But I like the no melt ones, they're not as sticky. And I can get at any time 10, 11 species right here, including the sparrows on the ground. And this new little thing, which is my favorite new, it's just a stick and it has sunflower seeds in it. And I love it. I just love it. Of course, you have to be careful when things get wet, and I tend to be emptying that. And again, I filled it just this morning because of the rains. This area underneath, that's the creek. That live oak over there is the creek. And then that's a black walnut beside it, which the woodpeckers and the crows, I don't know, John, if you can, you'd have to tip it up quite a ways. And then I can see the golden crowned sparrows running. So tip down now at me. Thank you. I can see the golden crowned sparrows running underneath the rosemary here. And I think I left up this Mexican sage, even though it's growing from the bottom for spring. Most of you probably know Mexican sage with the big, long purple tips, flowers. The hummingbirds just love that. So just to show, we have another live oak on the property here that came up as a volunteer, which we're very lucky for. And the big tree where the suet is, that's a Monterey pine. We took 3 down because of disease and age. They were all about 75 years old. This one was hiding behind it. We call it Pine Junior. And James, if you're on, that's the same age as you, and look how tall that is now. So, and then these are the last 2 feeders I wanted to show you. I'm going to show you pictures of birds on these feeders, the videos. But we have the Niger seed here, and then I have another big, this is the sunflower seed one with the last element, which is, can you tip down a little bit? There we go. The last element, which is a solar fountain. And the pygmy nuthatches love that jade plant. Okay, up, excuse my feet, there. They love that jade plant, hop around in there and then hop up to drink. This is definitely a drinking fountain. I don't know why they don't bathe in it, but they just drink from it. And let me just get my presentation up and running. How are I haven't been able to see chat, so how's it going?
Yeah, we do have a few questions if you want to start taking a few.
I could, if they're appropriate, if they work with the outside world we were just in, yes, and yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so Joe wanted to know the name of that plant again, the one that had thunder in it.
Yes, that's the Thundercloud Plum. And it's not supposed to get plums on it, but it gets really teeny tart plums about this big. Last year, I took my feeders down just before the blooms came out. So we ended up with like 200 to 300 of these plums on this tree, which was not supposed to happen. But there you go. This year, I don't expect to get many as all, but it is a beautiful, that copper color leaf, gorgeous, gorgeous plant, tree. It's about, I don't know, 15, it's about 20 feet tall.
Nice. Another question, you mentioned that you had a bird runway, and Jeff wanted to know what you meant by that.
Okay, so the neighbor feeds, she has 2 cylinder feeders. I think she mostly puts Niger in them. And then we have our backyard feeders, and then we have the front yard trees, and you can see the birds fly from one to the other to the other. So by having other people in the neighborhood feed birds, we end up with a lot more birds in our garden. So we thank her.
Cool. And then I guess, you know, since we're talking about feeders, we had someone say that, you know, the feeders look like they're accessible to squirrels. So a couple of people asked how you prevent squirrels from getting to them.
Well, the one in the middle of the lawn is really easy because all it is this big, that's the backyard one, which is this long pole. And I'll show some static pictures, still pictures of them. The squirrels can't get at that. But the one I showed you in the front yard, that's in the pine, my biggest one, yeah, the acrobatics of the single, there's a gray squirrel who's my nemesis. Yes, the squirrels get it, that one. He actually hangs in the feeder and enjoys himself, go for a little swing in the catcher, the seed catcher. So the ones under the eaves, they cannot get at. I think we had one year that had figured it out, but most of them, they don't come under the eaves because they really are under the eaves. And they protected from the rain under the eaves as well. And we're lucky because our big, huge windows that are next to those are tinted green for solar protection. So the birds very rarely hit. And when they do hit, it's a strike. They don't even, like, I don't find them. So they're gone. So we're lucky that the windows are a little tinted.
And then I guess we can do one more question and then you can go ahead and start your presentation, the second part of the presentation. So Rachel said, we have competing issues with our HOA, those that want to encourage bird feeding with appropriate plantings, but also have concerns about feeding rats. Do you have any suggestions for that?
Well, it's a really good question. And it's a struggle because I don't want to poison the rats. We do have rats around. So these seed catchers, the seed catchers make a huge difference because I don't put seed on the ground and nothing's falling to the ground. So there really isn't much for the rats to eat. So I think that's my sort of solution. That said, we definitely have roof rats around and rats on the ground, and yes, they're around. So yeah, but those seed catchers, I highly recommend them.
Cool. Okay, yeah, we'll get to the rest of the questions afterwards.
Okay, so believe it or not, 62 species in our yard over 9 years. 9 years is about as much time as I've been counting just in our yard and thinking about it clearly and tracking. My husband and I have been tracking birds since 1992, but very casually until a couple of years ago. So I just want to go through some of the birds that I've seen, anywhere from a golden eagle that flew over, the ones that used to hang out at the dish in Stanford, and all the way down to the mallards in the creek. So, and we'll talk about what a yard bird is when we get to talking about eBird. So, a couple of pictures just for fun of some of the birds. Actually, some of these I've seen very recently. Like I said, Suet is my new favorite friend. I just love watching the birds on the Suet. We have 2 species of woodpeckers. I've seen a hairy woodpecker, but only on the far side, the creek side. Nuttall's are regular visitors to our trees. And the downy woodpecker is just this year. And we have both sexes of both woodpeckers. The white-throated sparrow, I think, I just can't believe it keeps coming back and coming back. It lives in the jasmine plants, or at least that's where it hides out. So we do see a white-throated sparrow quite often. This is 3rd year in a row. And the black phoebe, it's the 1st year that it's been here, and I attribute it to all the compost that we've been putting out on the ground. I think that's why. It's always been in the neighborhood, but never in our backyard. This is the first time in our backyard. So there's a picture of the black phoebe with some of the red berries behind it. And then the white-breasted nuthatch on the Suet. They just love being on the Suet. And we have the male and the female this year. Last year we had male, female, and a whole bunch of other ones, which I assume were children. I told you that the house finches hang out in the Magnolia, so they do. And that picture was taken a couple of years ago. And the hermit thrush I just saw this morning. So that's the hermit thrush looking quite cute. On the bare branches, really important. That's on the cherry tree with the oleander behind it. Ruby-crowned kinglet, watching it flutter, eating from the Suet is so much fun, especially when it flashes its red little crown at us. And then the brown creeper, we see rarely, but it's always fun to hear it. I usually hear it, so then I go out and look for it. Sparrows to date, these are the 6 sparrows that we see, and a couple of times the Lincoln sparrow, we have 1 that hangs out here regularly. This year I saw up to 3 fox sparrows. Only ever seen a song sparrow once in the yard, so it's been interesting. So I have a few videos. This is the goldfinch. I don't know how well this is going to come through, but it'll give you an idea of what it looks like. That's the Townsend warbler in the top right, and lesser goldfinches, and there's the Pine Siskin. This is just before I took down the feeders about 6-7 weeks ago. There, I think you can see all of the birds on there. It's so much fun to watch. And this one, a little bit longer, you can see the same birds, but I'll just give you a chance to watch this. I don't know how many birds were in the tree at the time, but there we are. Okay, so now we're going to talk about feeders and seed. This is the large seed feeder, one of them. And you can see I've listed the species that I see regularly on these. This ground stick, if anybody knows what these are called, I just love them. I absolutely love them. So important to note that the chickadees can hang on it, but the sparrows have a harder time. But one of the funny things that happened when I took all the feeders down is the sparrows have learned how to jump up and eat from the suet. And they do the classic, white crowned sparrow thing where they demand the position and look like royalty sitting up there, but they fall off a lot. And then there's the other large seed. I put a little note in here. There's a really good resource called thespruce.com that I've put into my list of resources. It talks a lot about seed and feeders. I've also put a bunch of Audubon stuff there as well. And the suet, the Townsend warbler, we have both male and female this year. That's also new. Usually we just get the female showing up, but pretty well all the birds use the suet. And then the Niger seed as well. So the seed catchers I've talked about a lot. Those are all the siskins. And that's when I noticed one of the ones that was sick. So this video is very important to show. It's the pitch for only having indoor cats. So that's Dobbs, and he loves the fact we have all these birds around. We are very happy he's indoors. So water we talked about. I think with the drought coming, at least we're going to be short water this summer, that water elements are so important, but they have to be cleaned. And like I said, this lovely fountain I bought is really hard to clean. But as long as I keep the seed away from falling in it, it's not bad. But cleaning the water, I certainly blast it out every couple of days, and we'll talk about what cleaning means in a minute. So this is a list, and you can read it at your leisure, but it talks about the size of your water element. So easy to clean, a fair size, so it can accommodate more than one bird at a time. It needs to be obvious to the birds. So if it's in a dark corner or a dark color, they probably, it's better if they're a dark color because the birds, maybe they feel more safe inside it. 15 feet from all your other feeding areas. It's kind of like a cat. They don't really want their water and their food next to each other. And of course, it keeps it cleaner if you keep the seed out of the water. Movement, of course, keeps it fresh, and the noise absolutely attract birds. I find that with all of our things. I mean, 3 of our 4 elements have water, noise fountains of some sort. So, and that cover of those bare branches and the pedosporin over top of the bird bath really helps, because maybe that's why they don't use the front one as a bath, because there's nowhere for them to hang out after. So everybody, I did a bunch of research for this, and everybody says that to clean your bird bath, it's 1 part bleach to 9 parts water, and then let it dry. And if you let it dry, the bleach will completely disappear. So there's my 3 blue elements. The traditional cement bird bath, I can't tell you, I've had cedar waxwings, American robins, the hermit thrush, just a amazing number of birds use this single bird bath. I clean it every day. So, and then there's a bit more about cleanliness. So let's talk about the Pine Siskin irruption and Salmonella Disease. The Salmonella disease is so unfortunate. We had the eruption, which means that everybody was seeing more Pine Siskins. It was an amazing, dramatic increase in the population of the species on the west coast of the United States and Canada. Along with that came this Salmonella disease. It is spread through contact with feces from an infected bird, either from the food or the water, or actually an object like a perch that they come in touch with. It is so clear when you have a sick bird. So they are all puffed up and they don't move very fast. I actually put my hand on one the other day, well, I guess 6, 7 weeks ago, but they do sit ruffled up, big, fluffy, because siskins are not big and fluffy. Well, when it's cold, lately they've been doing that, but these are really lethargic birds. I think that's the best term for it. Got to take your feeders down. It was so painful to do. And I even, clean them all out, dry them up, put them up again, boom, the birds were back. So, and I did see, I guess, about 3 sick birds. If you find a sick bird or a dead bird, if you find a dead bird, dispose of it and then wash your hands really well. On my resources list is a way of reporting the mortality. They don't want you to bring them to wildlife centers anymore, but reporting where you saw it is really important. But the recommendation is to take them down till April 1st, which is when the bird should be gone. But they might even, it's what, the second week of April now. So yes, hopefully we can get back to seeing our other birds at that time. I'll take questions on that, Serena, after, but if you have questions, let me know. Like I said, I'm not an expert in these things, but you have to learn enough so that you're not poisoning, putting disease in the birds that are in your area. So there's a picture of fall. Fall was spectacular this year in our backyard. This is all the trees. When I started this list, I decided this is the reason. I'm just so lucky because this is the reason. These are all the trees on the property and not on the property. So in the next door neighbors, we have neighbors 20 feet away on all sides. We have 7 neighbors on our fence. So this gives you an idea of where all the birds are hanging out. All right, what time are we at? Oh, perfect. So how do I keep track? Well, I use eBird. So I'm a eBird fanatic. I put my profile on here. I'm probably out every other day. I probably submit one eBird checklist almost every day because I try to do my yard list so that I can keep track of what birds I'm seeing when. And that's important to me because I find it interesting. But as Serena said in my bio, I came out of the marketing world where statistics and data is just so important. It's so much fun that when I started doing bird watching more seriously, when I retired in 2017, and when I took up photography, I could merge the visual with the photographs, the birds that I love, the being outside, and the stats, the statistics. So it's kind of like my dream little world here. And this is one way to survive through the last year. So your yard is anywhere that you can see or hear from what you consider your yard. And what you do is you pick a hotspot or many hotspots. I actually could have created my own personal hotspots, eBird hotspots, in the front yard and the backyard separately. I didn't actually. Maybe I should do that. That's now that I say that out loud. But I put that personal hotspot inside a yard. And I have put all of the information about how to create one of these. So over time, and I'm actually going to click through. So this is current. My yard is in San Mateo County. So I'm looking at San Mateo County. And these are my statistics in my yard. So lifetime I've seen 62. The most recent new one was November 7th. Over the year, I saw a whitetail kite go over the full blooming magnolia the other day. It was just gorgeous, yelling. It was making quite a nice, long, high-pitched sound. And then to the month, last month I saw 40 species, and this month I've seen 23 to date. And you'll see that my good friend Naomi, who lives down the street here, she's ahead of me. We have a little secret competition. And here's where I am. And a lot of you will recognize some of the names if you're Penbird or eBird people. So It's a lot of fun to keep track. I try not to be competitive. It's hard, but that's what my yard looks like. And one of the neat things you can do is this. So this list is created based on me keeping track of my yard and putting my personal hotspot into my yard, my eBird yard. And I can tell, for example, I've highlighted the cedar waxwings. Well, I know when the cedar waxwings are here, and I kind of know because the holly berries are bursting as well. But this shows me what birds are in my neighborhood, in my yard area, have to be within hearing distance, have to be within visual distance. The mitered parakeets went over the other day. Actually, they've been going over quite a bit in the last week and a half. So they've actually done that a couple of times, and they would show up in my yard list because I put a checklist in. So this is why it's fun to do a checklist in your yard every day, because then you can see the migration of the birds through your neighborhood. So I just want to one more time point out that San Francisco Bay Bird Observatory is a science-based organization. They have biologists and ornithologists and ecologists that are monitoring and helping birds and bird habitat conservation. Please consider donating now or at another time when they reach out to you. So to finish, my top tips, offer water, especially this summer, because it's going to be hot and dry. Put out suet baskets. It's just so much fun to do that. Make sure there are bare branches close to feeders and bird baths, and create ground cover so that they have hiding spaces and hiding places. Everything is at this URL, which I am going to put into the chat while we're all here. And all my photographs are on that website as well. And there's my contact information. There's probably people that have questions, I hope.
Yes, lots of questions. So
Ooh,
we can get started with those. And first, I do want to thank you for this wonderful talk and showing us your garden. Also, please thank John for us for, handling the camera. So let me try and get back to some of those questions. So as a reminder to everyone, please go ahead and enter any of your questions into the chat window. I will try to read them in the order that they came in, and maybe I'll try to group some together. So the first question we have is from, let's see, Rachel asked if you have any native plant suggestions.
Well, I think that, I know it's silly to say this, but the live oak, I know everybody can't plant a live oak, but if I had to talk native, it's really the best suggestion I can make, even if you have small ones. So that would be one. One of the things, and I had an idea this question was going to come up, is, we focus a lot on flowers, and that means that we're not as focused on what's native. And if you want to slap me on the wrist for that, I totally get it. We would love to take that black acacia down that's in the backyard. That would be super, 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 super. But the creek, they are taking out some of the non-native ones on the creek as well, but it'd be really hard to give up my my fruit trees. I guess we could call them native, sort of, but they definitely are cultivated trees. So sorry, that's not a really great answer, but no, I don't focus on native trees as much as I should. The front garden's full of salvia. I don't know, somebody can tell me if all the different kinds of salvia are native or not, but we must have 5, 6 different kinds of just salvias, all different colors. So.
Great. Yeah, maybe we can, I know that there are lots of online resources for native plants for backyards, so I can try to dig some of those up and send those to everyone in a follow-up email.
There's actually, I put a bunch of those in the resource list on my website too, so yeah.
Perfect.
I hope that helps. Yeah.
Thank you. And then Susan wants to know, are the Niger seeds primarily for goldfinches?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, goldfinches, sometimes a house finch, but their beaks are, that much bigger. Goldfinches, the chickadees sometimes compete, but mostly just by sitting in the catcher, the little catcher that's under the tube. Pygmy nuthatches will hang out on and eat those. I think that's, pygmy nuthatches will do it as well.
Nice. And speaking of those bird or seed catchers, lots of people asked about those. And
yeah, they're amazing.
yeah, so people wanted to know, where do you get them? Is it a
Okay.
brand and things like that?
Yeah, so there's two places to get them, and these I definitely recommend these places. There's the let me make sure I get the names right, but there's the Los Gatos Birdwatcher, and the one in San Carlos, Wild Birds Unlimited. I'll get the names in just a minute because I've got them written down here somewhere. So I will look for them. But I got them in Los Gatos. So, and you can buy seed and stuff, but these specialized places, they have big bags of seed, and they have you can join their groups, so you get some discounts or you get coupons or that kind of thing. And I highly recommend, being able to do that. Birders Garden, thank you so much, in San Carlos. So
Great.
anyways, they're great. Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of those seed catchers, Jeff asked, if you don't allow the seeds to fall to the ground, how do you support the towhees and juncos?
Well, I think the squirrels jump in the seed catchers and spread it all over the place. But that's not a great answer. It just seems that they get some anyways, and I guess there's just so much else going on. There's so many plants that have seeds coming off of them. I mean, if you think about what rosemary throws off and what the Mexican sage throws off and all the salvias, and I think there's just enough going on that there's stuff. But I don't, every once in a while, if I have people over and I want the birds to come, I'll put some seed on the patio, but I don't want to put it on the ground anymore. Just the amount of mold worries me. And John doesn't like having crabgrass show up. So sometimes, there's grass in there.
So I think there was another question about the seed catchers. Yes, Alan asked if you bring in the seed catchers every night.
No, I don't. No, but I clean them when I clean the feeders. So yeah, I mean, if this was normal times, I'd probably clean them every 3 or 4 days, but we're not in normal times. And like I said, these are coming down as soon as we finish this conversation. So they're not so easy to clean. They definitely get messy. Oh, I just want to point out that my friend Naomi says that the towhees and juncos don't need support. They scratch for bugs. So that's one thing. So yeah.
And then Lori wants to know, how is spicy bird food to prevent squirrels? Do you have experience with that?
No, the squirrels is all about where you place your feeders. So to me, they seem to eat anything. Well, that's just my, like I said, it's not a big study of this. It's just from watching for years. I don't really know all the science behind it all.
Okay. And Christina asked about if you have any thoughts on falconry for rat control. For example, there's a program called Rats. Raptors are the solution. They said they would love to know your seed catcher of choice, or of choice also, but oh yeah, you already covered that part, but yeah. So
that's okay. Rats. Hi, Christina. So we have raptors. We have a pair of red-shouldered hawks. Actually, he was out here. No, I think it was she, the bigger one, was out here this morning just yelling her head off. And this year we have a red-tailed hawk in the area, and we have a merlin that comes by once in a while. So the roof rats, if they're roof rats, don't last long. I think that they do get picked off the roofs, and we've seen a Cooper's hawk I just saw one actually come screaming out of the creek. You can hear it, crash, 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 and the bird goes zoom out. Yeah, that's the Cooper's hawk. That was quite a scene. But what really worries me is when people resort to poisoning the rats. I mean, that goes straight into the hawk, straight into the raptor. And I wish I could just get everybody to not worry so much about the rats. I know they're a problem, but they're part of our cycle here in our urban world. So, but yeah, don't poison your rats.
All right, and now we have a few questions about suet feeders. So Richard asked if it's okay to have the suet feeders with, all the salmonella going on.
Yeah, I knew that was coming. Everybody kind of has to make their own decision on this one. And I decided to leave the suet feeders up. There are recommendations that says take them down. You know, while the sparrows have learned to jump for the suet feeders, I've never seen a lesser goldfinch or a pine siskin on my suet. If I had, I probably would take them down, but they don't seem to frequent those. The minute I took the seed feeders down, all the siskins and goldfinches disappeared. So like within 2 hours, I mean, really, they just disappeared. So yeah, it's a personal choice, and I left the suet feeders up.
Great. And Holly asked if you know of a DIY instruction for suet.
You mean like how to make it? Oh, how to make it yourself. Ooh, yeah, I guess that'd be pretty messy. Yes, I'm sure there is, but you have to get your hands on lard, I guess. It's I don't know. Maybe somebody can answer that or put a link in the chat to, and I'll put it into my resource page. If anybody's got an answer to that, Google it. Yeah, yes. But still, it's nice to be asked. So no, I don't. They're $2 a piece at the hardware store, and there are some beautiful ones at in San Carlos. I'm forgetting the name of your store again. I'm so sorry. So Birder's Garden in San Carlos, they had some lovely ones. So they worked really well. The birds seemed to like them a lot.
Great. And then Susan asked, for those stick feeders that you have, don't cats stalk or catch birds on there?
Okay, so the cat thing drives me crazy, right? Like nobody should have outdoor cats. So there's a black cat around here that was hiding actually in the rosemaries. And I started just turning the hose on every time I went outside, and just like, right on the cat. And it was there a lot of the times. It's not there anymore. So, but it's the stick one has no brush around it. So it's wide open. The birds can see everywhere. It's actually sitting in a really, not much foliage around it. So I try to keep that kind of thing far away from anywhere where cats will hide. The cat does have a bell. Sometimes it gets out of its collar, though. That's the problem. So.
Okay, and now another difficult topic for many, shifting from cats, but going back to more of the salmonella issue. So first of all, Susan asked, do you broadcast feed while your feeders are unavailable?
You mean like spread it around on the ground? No, I don't.
Okay.
No, I just use that. I don't even use the stick. I took it down because the finches were, it's just the suet that's there. So like I said, every once in a while I might put some out on the patio, and then I can just wash it away very quickly, but they devour it when I do that. But that's mostly as a show for friends that are coming over to see all the birds. But no, I don't scatter.
And then Charlotte asked, what if you haven't seen any sick birds? Can you keep feeders up in that case?
Well, there's a good personal choice you have to make. If you feel confident, what a sick bird looks like. I mean, I would then walk out every morning and see if the birds scatter or not. And if they don't scatter, if one of them just is a little slower than the other, or has been on the feeder for like 2 minutes and hasn't moved, I mean, they're pretty easy to spot, but I would say that most people have the problem. I would be surprised if there's an area where they don't. So yeah, I would take it down.
Yeah, here, like in the Bay Area and in the Pacific Northwest as well, I think it's a big problem. I think all the wildlife rescues are pretty much recommending taking all of them down, regardless of whether you actually see the sick birds or not, just to help prevent the spread. But related to that, though, Carolyn asked, should we also take down hummingbird feeders? And I will just note just quickly that Jeff mentioned that animal rescue centers say you can leave hummingbird feeders up since no pine siskins eat there. I know that I think other places still recommend taking them down, but yeah, go ahead and share your thoughts.
I just read about this actually just recently. I was actually sitting with a friend looking at her hummingbird feeder and talking about this, and they said that hummingbird feeders could be a problem as well. But it's up to you. I mean, just like I've left my suet up because I have not seen that used by the two birds that seem to be really affected by the disease. Hummingbird feeders, maybe don't get visited by those birds. And if you've taken all your other feeders down, then odds of you getting a sick bird up there are probably pretty low. And that's what I read, that it was very low. So, yeah.
Okay, good to know. And Christina said that we took ours down for a few weeks, their feeders, and then started putting up some like freshly cleaned bleached feeders every day. But they still worry about places to congregate, and they're doing a daily sweep of the seeds, spraying everything down, cleaning branches, and they're hoping that they can continue this, but they're wondering if that's sufficient actually, and it's a tough decision.
It's a horrible decision, I have to admit, because the great joy I have in watching the birds has really helped with this year. And I'm sure there's many of you feel the same way. I mean, it's so unfair this eruption happened, then the disease happened this year. So if you're being so diligent, then obviously you care very much about the environment for these birds, then keep doing it. I mean, and you will see a sick bird. You will notice they're so easy to see. They're so easy to notice. So, and sometimes some of them don't show symptoms, but we've only got a couple of more weeks to go. That's the good news. I saw April 1st on a bunch of stuff, and I'm seeing a little bit after April 1st on other things, but they will move on and go be contaminated somewhere else soon. So,
yeah. So hopefully, later in the spring, all the feeders can come back up without worrying about that.
Yeah, I hope so.
Let's see. And I guess quickly before we go, we are a few minutes until 6 p.m. So if anybody needs to jump off, I do want to say thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully we'll have this posted again within a few days, and you can catch up on the rest of the Q&A if you're interested. But if you are available to stick around, we will continue with the Q&A. So
thanks everybody. Just in case you're bailing out, thank you. This was a lot. I think we had 160 people, so I hope you filled out the poll. Maybe Serena can, I don't know if you can put it back up again or not, but just curious as to, what the interest was. Was it the Pine Siskin situation, which I think drove a lot of people? I think there's some people in line, it's just because they know me, like my family, my friends. Thank you for coming, people. And then, and then some of you, maybe it's just your eBird people as well, and we'll see you out on the paths.
Yeah, I'll share those results with you sometime after tonight.
Wonderful.
So, all right, our next question that I am seeing is from Mary Jane, who asked, how do you deal with invading crows?
So we have a lot of crows around here and they chase the hawks, and it's quite a scene. I saw a flock, a murder of crows of 50 go over the other day. So they're around. They don't actually, luckily we have redwoods. Actually, I didn't even put the redwoods on the list. We have 4 redwoods around us, and they don't seem to live there, but we do have a pair. There is 2 that come down and hang out. John chased one away this morning, but there aren't a lot of them, so it's not a big problem. But yeah, you're right. Crows are a pain. But the Steller's jays this year have been amazing. So we had up to 5 Steller's jays. They're not usually as prevalent, and they're fighting with the yelling at each other, the California scrub jays at the same time. So you can imagine like 3 or 4 Stellers and 2 or 3 California scrub jays. The noise is much worse than the crows. So, but lots of Steller's jays this year compared to last year.
Cool. And then I guess more so probably for your photography. Robin asked, what type of camera do you use?
So thank you for asking. I love taking pictures of birds. I'm still learning how to take pictures of birds in flight. So it's a Lumix, Panasonic. It's a Lumix G85. The more important thing is that I've got a 300 millimeter lens, so 75 to 300 millimeter lens, and it's an Olympus, and it has an image stabilizer in it. So that's really the reason I can take pictures, is because of how good the lens is, right? So, and I just bought a scope for the first time, so that's kind of fun too, so that I can see ducks in the distance and things. Yeah,
it's exciting.
Yeah.
And then going back to some of the cleaning of things. So Rachel asked for the bird baths. Do you bleach those every day as well?
No, I do it every 3 days. So I'll clean them out and bleach them out and let them dry. We're so lucky that we have, sunshine now, because it just takes out all of the bleach that you've used. So about every 3 days, yeah, I clean them out. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but they get really gross if you don't. I mean, even if it doesn't look gross, they're gross. So yeah.
And
what kind of scope? I see a mess. Just let me ask. I'm watching the chats now. It's a vortex. Everything I own is vortex. From binoculars, I have 3 pairs. Well, one for each member of the family. And then I bought a vortex scope, but I bought the little one. It's only 2 pounds. So it's amazing. Yeah, the tripod weighs much more, and Vortex threw the tripod in for free. I bought it from B&H Video. I think they're in Massachusetts or something. So the tripod doesn't let me see much further than my really good, what are they, 1042s, 842s, and whatever my Vortex binoculars are. But it's, but because you're stable, it's so much easier to see the birds, of course. So that's what I bought. It's super light. It's amazing. It's like literally, it's like this big. So I love my Vortex binoculars. Yes, I really do. They're the rugged ones too, and I have small hands and they fit my hand. I just love them. So, and by the way, I send them back to Vortex every once in a while when they get sand in and stuff, and I just put them in a box to customer service, and they clean them and they send them back. And they've only charged me 1 out of 3 times. So just so you know, little tip on Vortex.
yeah, they have great like warranties and things like that. So Jan asked, do you keep track of birds that have nested in your yard?
I have never kept track of nesting or eggs or families or any of that stuff, and I am now going to start. There. Never.
Nice. All right, and then let's see, Rachel asked if you have any other recommendations for bush or tree plants to feed birds.
Well, John, are you here? They are asking about what plants we have or we should have or they should have for birds. Like what plants that throw off seeds and things like that. So certainly all the different salvias are really important. I would say, what would you say? He's looking around the garden just to keep in. So the rose. All different kinds of salvias are really good. Yeah, they can't hear you, so you'll have to. All the different salvias, yeah. And then the azaleas in the front, a lot of it's, we put them in so that they could hide under them, not as much eat them. So we're much more, we were more aware of their cover. So, so the Coffea and the Mexican bush sage, I don't think Mexican bush sage is native, but it is so spectacular. And yeah, so the Toyon, obviously, pepper, is pepper tree native? Because we have the berries in the back for that. So it's kind of random. We kind of, huh? Yeah, anything with berries. Yeah, anything with berries. And of course, the creek is full of invasive blackberries, which helps bring more birds in. So
great. Let's see. I am scrolling through lots of these great questions and comments.
Oh, good. Somebody put the bnhphoto.com. They are wonderful. I mean, yeah, they're wonderful. So good people.
Nice. Yeah, there are so many helpful comments in here. So thank you again, everybody, for chipping in and providing some great resources and information. So Susan talked about sterilizing hummingbird feeders and how frequently that should happen. And, if you have any tips for that, maybe.
We don't use hummingbird feeders because I think they're and we would get more hummingbirds if we did. They're just such high maintenance. And I think that there's resources online that discuss that better than my knowledge, because we decided not to do that.
Okay. And then Rachel asked, when you clean bird baths daily, do you also need to bleach every day too, if you're doing that?
I don't. I bleach them out every 3 days. So that's just kind of my random, what I've decided to do. Everybody should do what they feel comfortable doing. It's a lot of work. I mean, we have 4 elements. Well, like one I don't run very often because it's such a lot of work. But yeah.
Yeah, it's a labor of love.
It definitely is. It definitely is.
And I think you probably already answered this about other kinds of plantings, whether they're native or non-native. But if you have other recommendations for food sources as well, even if they are non-native.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'll think about that. I mean, I really didn't think about it enough for this talk, so I will think about it more. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a lot to do with the big trees that are around, and we're lucky that way that we have those trees.
Awesome. Well, I think that was the last question I am seeing. If I
Great.
have accidentally missed anything, please feel free to chime in or go ahead and send me an email, or, Barb had her contact information as well. I'll be sure to send out a list of resources that people are sharing, as well as Barb's website, of course. And so before we all sign off, I do want to ask you, Barb, if there is anything else you want to share with everybody.
Yes, on my resources, I have a link to these amazing, this Etsy artist that produces these incredible birds that can go in your garden just for fun. So I wanted to put that out there because, we need to have some fun, and it doesn't all have to be about real birds. So these are wooden and they're adorable.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Barb. This was a lot of fun, and I hope everybody enjoyed it. Thank you again to everybody for joining us for tonight's event, and we hope to see you at a future event soon. Stay safe, and yeah, we'll see you next time. Have a good night.
Okay. Bye, everybody. Thank you.